Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Happy Sunday. Sunday service in live in full effect. We are talking about the new faces, some of the new faces to the Texas Longhorns team, right? Legitimate new faces via the transfer portal for the 2025 season. Who's going to make that big impact? Who's the next Andrew Makuba for this football team? Who's the next Matthew Golden, A.D. Mitchell, right? The benefits that Texas has had from the transfer portal have been amazing, and a big part of our success the last couple years, making the college football semifinals, making the college football playoffs. So we want to talk about that here, today in terms of who are, we got a bunch of these guys we're excited about. What's realistic roles for them, right? And who are the guys we're really, really, really counting on to be those next wave of Texas stars, right? I mean, last year, Andrew Makuba comes in, who I was really excited about because he was a guy that kind of got away from us in recruiting the first time around, coming out of Austin and just really lit it up his freshman year at Clemson. And I knew he probably could have gone to the NFL, had a draftable grade before coming here, but like Jahdae Barron, wanted that one more year, wanted that opportunity to play with his guys, seeing that Texas is back up, being able to play at home, um, you know, having a child now, being just more mature, older, but also coming into an environment where it's like, hey, this is a legitimate place for me to up my stock. And we saw the fruits of that from Makuba, one of the best 1 year guys I've ever seen come into this program and just add credibility, add leadership, and just could flat out play football, right? So people that just come in and we fall in love with them as Longhorn fans immediately, right? Same thing goes for Matthew Golden, who parlayed his success here into being a first round NFL draft pick. So that's what we're talking about today, right? Who are the next brothers up to make some noise? Let us know here in the comments. It's free to show love. Hit that like button. Subscribe. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers by Texas versus Ohio State, August 30th. We have a lot of work to do. I think we only got 60, just a little over 60 days before kickoff. But with your help, momentum coming into the college football season, I will continue to speak that until that date. Look, like I said, it's free to show love. Appreciate you guys. Let's tap in. Vandaliza opened us up with a super chat. The Vandaliza, look, you are too kind. I appreciate the love that is consistently shown to this, and I appreciate you offering trade pass donations. I see John Wayne in here, but Vandalise, appreciate you so much. Excited to get chatting with y'all and talking some ball today. Um, John Wayne said, go from the 512. Jamarcus Jones tapping in with Jack Injuries, right? Our new tight end from Cal, right? Those impact guys. H. Post said Murad Watson, former freshman All American defensive tackle from Syracuse, who's coming in part of five guys we added at that position group outside of the freshmen that are coming in. So very excited about that group. And Watson being in that mix with probably the strongest. Think about his impact, right? Because we need those guys in the middle. We have multiple defensive linemen that were drafted last year in Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins coming in to stabilize that middle because our edge room is crazy. So if he can play like he played and continue to extend, what does that give you overall in the totality of your defensive line, right? As well as the positional versatility, the amount of guys, guys that can play one tech, guys that can play three tech, guys that can play across the defensive line like Alfred Collins did last year. It's going to be really, really interesting to see. So I know a lot of people are high on Watson, but when you think about like Cole Brevard, Travis Shaw, Lavon Johnson, like we've got to, you know, we've got a crew hero, right, from Ohio State. Like there's a bunch of people in that defensive line room, and you still got guys like, I know we're talking about portal guys, but guys like Alex January that I think are going to be good. The Justice Terry's of the world, the defensive line. We may leave this season saying, "Wow, we did it again." In terms of the interior defensive line, we may leave this season saying, "Wow, we did it again." That'd be unbelievable. Um, Travis said his money is on Hero. See this? I feel like people there's depending on, there's some big Cole Brevard. There's different types of guys in here. So let me know what you guys are feeling there in terms of the portal people. Um, Great question about injuries in terms of the blocking, right? Because that was something that, our previous tight ends, Jatavian Sanders, Gunnar Helm, progressed in those areas, which is why they were featured and able to stay on the football field, right? On top of guys that played a lot for us in those 12 personnel packages. Again, we did our rewatch on Colorado State the other day, and I told you guys that immediately when we needed to get points, when we first were still a little shaky early in the game, and we ended up getting our first scoring drive of the season, it came out of when we hopped back into 12 personnel, right? So that is where Sark is always going to be comfortable as a play caller, as a coach. Um, just a place of comfort to get to stay on schedule offensively, but to kind of generate a rhythm and get back to where he wants to be within the game, right? And so tight ends are such a major part of that. They've been a major part since he's been at this program, all 4 years. Tight ends have been crucial. So, you know, coming out of the spring, I think going into the spring, regardless of how you felt about Jordan Washington, regardless of how you felt about the multiple freshmen who can play, right? And I think those freshmen in that room will some of them will maybe even heard from this year, but we knew tight end was a position of need where they were going to be aggressive in the portal. They tried to get Max Clare. Max Clare visited here. They tried to get Max Clare. He picked Ohio State, but like there was no secret on Texas's need to get a tight end after Gunnar Helm elected for the NFL draft, right? So there's being able to pick up a guy who has been as productive as injuries has been the last 2 years at Cal, also playing with a really good quarterback there, Fernando Mendoza, who's now going to be the trigger man for the Indiana Hoosiers. But the impact that he made, right, against some good teams, right? His best game arguably was against Miami. So that right there, the last couple of years we've hit on receiver, right? And I'm going to talk about Emmett Mosley here in a second. But when you think about A.D. Mitchell leading this team in touchdowns a couple of years ago, and the impact that Matthew Golden had leading this team in receiving yards the next year, could that level of impact actually come from Jack Hendries this third time around, even above what Mosley gives you, just because there's so many receivers? Like, could that leading guy, like that guy that steps up and has 10 or 11 touchdown receptions, could that actually be a guy like a Jack Hendries, right? I don't see why Arch, especially with the amount of 12 personnel that we still will play, I don't see why Arch wouldn't leverage his tight end, right? Especially somebody that can work the seam, can run after the catch, and has probably the best set of hands that we've had since Jatavian Sanders. Nothing against Gunnar Helm had other things that he could do, I think, above and beyond as a tight end, and I think you'll see that in the NFL with Gunnar. But I'm just talking about straight hand. Like Jatavian Sanders had mitts, right? Like just one hand, like things like that. I've heard that that's the more of the lane that Jack Hendries is, right? So that will be interesting to see. Let me see here. Mason Shipley. There's a reason why I had him on the thumbnail cover. If you guys saw the thumbnail I made, Mason Shipley is on there. Texas State kicker. We know we need reliable kicking. It cost us last year. We're having a different conversation about everything if we had won the SEC championship in year one. I think the inner and to me, that right there could be the difference in seeding, right? Kicking, slight edge in some of these games that comes down to, right? So just trying to bolster those units. Mason Shipley might be the most important guy out the transfer portal, right? Because I mean, they need that to work, or else you're going back to the Will Stone, him Will Stone type thing, right? Like they need that to work. Like they cannot worry about kicking again. The kicking situation got so crazy that it impacted them mentally when they got in the scoring area. Like it started to impact play calling. Like I don't know if I got a guaranteed three, so we might have to call this thing like we about to go for it, which then impacts our efficiency in the red zone. Hence, you finish 111th in the country in red zone scoring last year, and you still almost won a national championship. You still almost won the SEC, and you were horrendous in the red zone. It cost you. That was how the season ended, was because of your red zone. So if they can get the kicking thing squared away, Mason Shipley may end up being the most important. Now, he may not be the highest draft pick. He may not be all conference, but if he's solid, if he's dependable, and you don't have to freaking 25 and in, right? From 25 and in, the mentality should be at worst, we have 3 points. We cannot, like, it can't be this shaky thing again. So anybody that wants to volunteer the kicker, I will not, just because of the trauma we went through last year. Like, oh boy, let me get some good stuff here in the comments though. Yes, I did see that Baxter is cleared for football activities. We covered that a couple weeks ago. Um, Look, anything we get, this is just a quick, just to address your question and your comment, FT. Anything we get early in the season, again, I think just for precautionary reasons, I'd want him on a pitch count. I know the work ethic, getting Rat back ready, there was no doubt in my mind he was going to work his ass off to get back and rehab like a champion, have the trust in the knee, the whole thing. But when we get and there's live bullets, it is different. And so I just, I'm still, I'm cautiously optimistic when it comes to that. I'll put it that way. I'm cautiously optimistic because the biggest thing that Cedric Baxter, and I've said this from his freshman year, when he's on the football field, because of his football IQ and his skill set, you are full menu when he's on the football field. You can run anything. There's times where other guys are on the field and you can't run inside, or you can't, they're not going to be able to, like, if a backer goes out with them out wide, do we take it seriously? Like we were throwing it to him when we were doing that his freshman year. If y'all remember, out of empty, we would literally throw it to him. So the fact that keeps your offense just complete, and then pass pro, right? The more you can do, the more dynamic I am, the more people have to respect my play action. Like there's a method to that, right? This is a kid that challenged. Now we can talk about what Tashard Choice was on at the time, but this is a kid that did technically win the starting job over Jonathan Brooks to start the season. Now we know how Jonathan Brooks came in and put his stamp on things and proved he was probably the best back in the country at that time. But that's, kudos to Cedric Baxter, right? So I just hope that he's ready, willing, and able. but they're also responsible in his usage. And there's no excuse because we have depth in the room. There's no excuse, especially if uh, uh, my hammer continues to progress. Jared Gibson is as much as you know I expect him to progress from his freshman to sophomore year. Same type of stride that we saw from Weisner. Uh, yeah, no, the blocking is big. The blocking is big because, yes, Amari Niblack, who a lot of people are asking about, right? It was kind of another frustration with another former Alabama tight end that couldn't get on the field. The blocking responsibilities are huge, huge. That's why Juan Davis was so important. Juan Davis was an unsung hero. I will continue to speak his name because he he earned the right to be on the field with his blocking and doing the dirty work in the 12. You know what I'm excited to see with Ethan Burke because I think Burke is going to be a guy that plays inside and out. Um, can he be at that elite? Can he get to the shape? I don't think Ethan Burke's ever going to be Thor, right? Like that's not fair to him. But can he get into the shape to where he can match the natural productivity and football instincts that he's shown? Right? Like as a vet, like he's one of our vets now. And he has been a productive Texas Longhorn. Can he make that stride that Baron Sorrell did? And the cool thing is, um, he's playing on a team where he won't like he'll have one-on-ones. The matchups are always going to be there for him. Like if he starts popping off, it's going to be real hard to start double. Like you can't double him. Colin Simmons on the other side. That's the beauty of the situation here. So if like you really start to pop off, it could get crazy because the boy is what 6'7". He's got. I mean, and I think he's just going to continue to develop with his hand placement and his bend. We know he can play the run very well. I think his best days are still way ahead of him. Is this the heaviest we've been with the new guys coming in? Is this the heaviest we've been? We got some real USDA Texas beef up there now. It's gonna be interesting because you combine that type of size with the speed on the edge and the playmakers behind them. Like you have all these big dudes, and we might have the best playmaking linebacker in the country right now, Anthony Hill, standing behind them, who's going to be protected. Anthony Hill's going to be protected. He, it, to me, him, Leona Leitfowl, it should be see ball hit ball. Same thing with Brad Spence. It should be see ball hit ball with these dudes in there. You got nothing but big people in front of you. They shouldn't be out here messing around with guards. It, the way the way these big dudes are out here. No. We got. I, I don't. It's been a minute since we've had this type of size consistently. It's been a minute, but it's exciting. It's exciting. So I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna transition back to the offense because I think in terms of like impact, when we think about impact of again, I started this thing off. Who will be the next Andrew McCuber or Matthew Golden? I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know defensively. Probably the closest person impact wise that will be to Makuba is probably Watson. But I don't know if we'll have like that type of just OMG, like he's clearly one of our best football players. Like at the end of the season, Andrew Makuba made the top 100 list that they had postseason for all of college football. So I don't know if we'll have like somebody like that defensively. Could be. I'm not saying we won't. But I think offensively, Emmett Mosley, Jack injuries are huge pieces of what you're trying to do offensively next year. To where, and so to focus more on Mosley right now, he was playing opposite another NFL receiver in Alec A.O. Minor, but at Stanford. And Ashton Daniels was mid. He's now transferred, I think, to Auburn, the quarterback. But Mosley finished the last 3 games on a tear. And the thing we talk about Jack injuries game, his big game against Miami, where he had that long, that long run away from the defense, right? Against a Miami team. A lot of talent on the field. Emmett Mosley tore up Louisville. A Louisville team that was ranked in the top 20. And went for 3 touchdowns in that game. And when you start to look at just the last 3 games of the season, really for him, because his last game at Stanford, he finished over 100 yards receiving. I think it's really, really interesting productivity. Like he's kind of coming off of a heater when leaving Stanford. The last 3 games he played, he either had a touchdown or 100 yards. In the Louisville game, I think he had 3 touchdowns. So the thing with Mosley as a freshman last year doing this in the ACC, how often his number is called offensively, especially if he's the one starting in the slot. Like if he really takes over that slot, like we watched last week, DeAndre Moore was our starting slot receiver first game, right? And DeAndre Moore also had 7 touchdowns last year. And I think he's going to have a crazy year, but I also think that is because Emmett Mosley is going to allow him to have crazy matchups all over the field, just with the usage of those two. And the thing with Mosley I like is he's not small either. Like these aren't small guys. Like he's 6'2". Now he can play inside and outside, and the boy can run. But the thing is, just having somebody that the positional versatility with the receivers is going to be really, really interesting this year. And I don't think that they'll be pigeonholed by any means. By any means. Just catching up on the comments here. Victor said no more Bama transfers. I think we'll slow down there because you guys got to think. Some of the people we have brought in over the years, those are guys that Sark and Flood and Banks have recruited too. Now, I wouldn't see that happening anymore, right? I mean, at this point, a lot of the Bama guys are either young guys that the last kind of groups of Saban, or at this point, people that have now been flipped under Kalen DeBoer, right? So the last of those guys that had those ties to Sark were probably around the folks that were in the same class or maybe the class after Isaiah Bond, right? But I don't foresee any more of them unless it's somebody that we ever had a good, rapport with from the recruiting trail, right? Because our staff is big on not burning bridges with guys, right? Even guys that don't necessarily pick us on the first time around. We have benefited here at Texas from people that have not picked us initially, and then they've come back. We just talked about Andrew Makuba. Okay, we lost the first time. Boy hopped in the portal 3 years later. Boom. It was great. So it'll be interesting. Ike said, I don't know if Brad Spence will be a star, but I think he could have the same effect Makuba did for his position group. Interesting. So that would be just stable. Like now I have two linebackers, lights out, blah blah blah. And the good thing is we've heard just promising stuff from about Brad Spence. Um, and if he can just continue to progress from what he was at Arkansas, right, and what that snap count looks like, because we know Leona Leifau will be competing there. The linebacker room is interesting at Texas, especially with where Trey Moore will play, because we know position wise, we're probably going to live with five DBs on the field unless it's a real heavy set game where we're very rarely we're ever putting three off ball linebackers on the field at the same time. Very, very, very rarely. So it'll be interesting, but I do see where Ike is coming from with Brad Spence and the potential impact there. Yeah, Spence is a sleeper pick. Lisa said, Burke just is a jelly belly monster. Boy just likes the buffet. If he could just give me Ethan Burke could make himself a lot of money if he ever gets to that next level with his body. Trust me, he could play in multiple defenses with his size in the NFL. He could play in multiple fronts. And we were kicking him inside last year, especially on like third downs. But he, he came in. He came in here like, yo, you really like Bud Light, bro? Like, god damn. But if he gets there, God, watch out. Watch out. Brad Spence is a great athletic run stopping linebacker. So a lot of people high on Brad Spence here in the chat, thinking that he could be that high, just solidifying the group. ZT Sports, this is an interesting comment, and I want to visit this real quick. I'm extremely interested to see if red zone offense ticks up. We were surprisingly good there statistically in year one under Sark. I've said multiple times, and I hope people understand where I'm coming from. I do think that the offense stylistically will look more like the 2021 offense. Okay. And I'm just saying, in terms of more big plays, that was still the most explosive offense we've had, believe it or not. Like overall, I would say overall in the last 4 years, like maybe look, we have to just fact check that statistically, but it feels like it based on what we've seen the last few years. That being said, the thing with the red zone offense was Casey Thompson and Hudson Card could both do zone read, and they both were way more mobile than Quinn and could zone read and just scoot into the offense. So that was they did score some touchdowns that way. And Bijan Robinson was in the backfield. I mean, Bijan Robinson was still on that football team too. So just between Bijan and the quarterback's mobility and some of the chunk plays we were getting, I mean, overall they were really, really productive. And so I see where this could be headed. The thing is, I think the maturation with Sark, the issue we had in 2021 was third quarters and the way people would adjust. We were jumping on people crazy. Like it was the lack of adjustments and the lack of tough. We weren't tough. We were not tough in 2020. And Sark talked about that on the Third and Longhorn podcast about just guys whenever shit got hard, guys the culture wasn't good. So, but in terms of what was being schemed up and people's skill sets, this will look more like 2021 in my opinion. I think so. I think some of the boot stuff and just some of the stuff that the Rams and the 49ers have done over the years with getting their quarterback throwing from different platforms, I think we're going to see a lot of that stuff again in our offense. And I think people are going to, and those were some of the things we were doing with Casey Thompson back then. It's just that it's been a minute. It's been a minute. We had an incumbent for 3 years. And so we got used to playing a certain way for 3 years. And there's nothing wrong with that. But now with under Arch, I think that is one of the differences we will see in terms of the different platforms he will be throwing from. I highlighted that in the Colorado State game when he came in and they were moving him outside the hashes off of his first few reps. So I think you will see a difference, especially with what the development of the offensive line and them getting themselves acclimated for new starters, right? Like some of that you can help aid them with some of those design boots, with some of that action, out there. So just something to keep in mind. Y'all arguing here in the chat on a Sunday. This John Willer said there's a strong possibility Texas is 3-3 halfway through the season. Let me guess. You think, and then we'll be 6-0 at that point. I only say that with Mosley, Ike, because of where I've heard them wanting to use him. I agree with you, though. I mean, I think that that's why I'm saying I don't think people are going to be pigeonholed, is what I'm saying. But in terms of his skill set, just because you're a little bit taller doesn't mean you can't be a very effective slot. But I think that both of these guys can. I think you can use them all over the place, right? Like Xavier Worthy could play in the slot, like but we were using him primarily outside. And it's also just based on how the player's already been used and what he does well, right? So that's the other thing I was kind of alluding to, but I definitely see where you're coming from. I just not pigeonholing people. The more, because there could be a week against, for example, against somebody's playing us a certain way, and we have a matchup against somebody else's nickel corner where it may make more sense for DeAndre Moore to be there that week. Or if they're playing zone and they're giving us certain windows, it may be more beneficial for Emmett Mosley to be there and be a zone beater for us in the middle of the field, opposite of a tight end. Right? Like that's something that Sean Payton and them mastered in New Orleans with guys like Marquise Colston and Michael Thompson using bigger slot receivers. So to me, the more you can do, the better, personally. Keelan Robinson was the only one of the Bama guys that came over that got drafted. Is that true? I never thought about it that way. Trey Moore, I mean, that's another being he's year 2 from the portal. the the Trey Moore thing is going to be fascinating to watch early in the season, especially versus Ohio State. Like, where is he lining up? Right? Where is he? Where's how is he being used? Is he, because he really started to figure things out as a pass rusher at the end of last season. Really, last half of the season, he was getting there and just giving us really, really good reps. So I'm really curious to see his utilization with this new group and where he's incorporated. Because he did show those. I mean, naturally, he played well off the ball the few snaps he got last year, and I think that's why what kind of sparked what he could do on top of the NFL evaluation and getting him ready for the league, right? Because he is smaller as if he's just a traditional edge, he is smaller. So he's a really interesting piece, right? But the cool thing is the rotation is crazy. Just the rotation is crazy. Y'all are funny, man. Hookem from Arkansas. Hey man, are you worried about how recruiting has been lately? Short answer, no. We had a rough week. A lot of the paid sites have covered that extensively. They have the time, bandwidth, and resources to do it. And I know I've been keeping up with it too. There was some frustrating misses, things of that sort, but it is July, or it is about to be July. I know it's about to be July 1st. So this is also a cycle where recruiting has amped up more because of what is to come July 1st. We got to factor that in as well. So the timetable has been sped up on some things. Even with that being said, I hold confident as we've been the last couple of years that we will continue to close very hard down during the season. And I also think that if we continue to play the type of ball we've played the last couple of years, the on-field product and doing that again with the new group, the new faces in here, if they start to show what they can, I think that will influence a couple guys. I'm not saying all, because I think some people are going to be locked in with the money that just the way money has been paid out pre-July 1st. I think some of that's going to be locked in. It has been a tough week for Texas on the recruiting trail, but net, I'm not worried at all. At all. I mean, you don't forget how to recruit. Just that's the thing. I think some people get. I'm not saying you're asking a question, but I think some people just live on this weird tilt in recruiting where it's all or nothing by each kid, and it's crazy to me. Like even the Fasusi stuff last year or last cycle, like I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lose sleep at night over something. Like, yeah, these guys great players, blah blah blah. Like, but just this, like, at this point, I know Steve Sarkisian knows how to recruit. I know Jeff Banks knows how to recruit. I know Kyle Flood knows how to recruit. Like, they've shown too much for decades to where, I mean, Sark, go if you want to hear Sark's pitch, go listen to the third and Longhorn interview. He gave you the pitch. I That pitch he gave is the same thing I told y'all why we closed on Michael Terry the third. That was the pitch. I wasn't lying about that. That pitch he gave on third and Longhorn, that's the pitch that Michael Terry got from Steve Sarkisian and AJ Milwee. They were that's their go-to close people out pitch. And it's a good freaking pitch. It's a good freaking pitch. And he's already modified it for post July 1st. Right? Because they know money's going to be allocated differently. He's already modified it. So I'm not freaking out over a couple L's or because Crowell didn't pick us and you were excited about this guy. I mean, I think some of it too is some people fall in love with certain prospects in the recruiting cycle, and if they don't land their guy that they liked or that particular person, even if we move on to plan B or whatever, it's doom and gloom. And that to me is not the case here with recruiting. I still see a path to where Texas can finish in a very strong position for the 2026 class. I do. And holding on to the guys we got, right? Holding on to the Jermaine Bishops of the world. And some of these guys that people will continue to come after them. So, but net tough week, but not worried at all. This crew knows what they're doing. I've even had to get better at that on this channel. I remember making a video. Who was that? Yeah, some of y'all are old enough to remember when I made the Zach Evans "Sky is Falling" video because we missed on Zach Evans, and then what? A um, couple weeks later, Bijan committed. I remember making the "Skies Falling" Zach Evans video. I remember making the "Skies Falling" Quinn Ewers video. Now that ended up getting a coach fired, so yes, that mattered a lot. Like, not that wasn't the only reason Tom Herman got fired, obviously, but it was part of the reasons why Tom Herman was let go, and that was after Milroe had decommitted from us because we went for Quinn, and then we missed on. And then we ended up with Charles Wright. So I remember making those "Skies Falling" videos, and the thing is things worked out. Yeah, you got to keep your hand on the pulse from a recruiting standpoint. But we've made some "Skies Falling" videos on this channel before. But as I've gotten older, as we've gotten better, I realized I had to chill. Did you see the pic of Baxter and Wines? Oh yeah, no, I did. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Let's see here. What's up, Marlon? Sark said in a recent segment, Mosley will be outside by default. Yeah, they those guys got to move around, especially when we have you know we have 11 or 12 personnel, but we're still an empty. Travis, good point. A lot of the motion, some of the bunch, right? Like, I expect us positionally. I mean, even some of the screen stuff that we do out of bunch, that should be fun. David Brown Burner said teams with unproven starting quarterbacks: Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia. Yeah, it's a long list this year. We're getting off that COVID era stuff, man. We're getting off the COVID era stuff. It's June. Yeah, I feel you on that. We're getting, but that this. Let me go back to David's comment. This is starting to get to what it was like before 2020. Okay. Before 2020, you would have, yeah, like people just didn't have quarterbacks for 5 or 6. Now, granted, with the portal, you can always get more experience guys. I get that. But we about to get back to having 19, 20-year olds behind, like, for the most part, right? Like 20, 21-year olds. It's about to be a younger man's game again. And that means that you're not gonna have people sick. Now, again, people are still gonna bounce around schools, all that, until they figure out what to do there. But overall, it's going to start to be a younger man's game again. And you're seeing that. I mean, these are big schools that are all breaking in. Now, some of these guys, like in the case of Georgia and Bama, in particular, right? Case of Georgia and Bama in particular, Gunnar Stockton has been sitting and waiting. Ty Simpson has been sitting and waiting. These are guys from the 2022. They were the same class as Cade Klubnik, so they've been waiting. Right, Arch is 2023. Notre Dame starting a redshirt freshman. Oregon starting Dante Moore, who was in the 2023 class. He played 1 year at UCLA and then sat last year. Right, and then Ole Miss is playing Austin Simmons. Austin Simmons is what, 19 years old? Wasn't he supposed to be class of 2025 or something? And then he reclassified. Michigan with Bryce. Bryce is a true freshman. And then Tennessee is starting to probably Joey Aguilar. Mateer was what, 2023 class, 22 class. So Mateer's 21. So he's a starting experience. So I don't know if I put Mateer. I don't have Mateer in that proven group. He had 40 touchdowns last year. Can't do that. You tried to sneak him in there. Mateer's not in this group. But I see what you tried to do, David. That was slick. That was real slick. USC is number one right now, and we all know that won't hold. Yeah, I mean they gave up. Think about how much they gave up for Mark Bowman. Will Lincoln Riley even last at USC? All those resources and talent he has in California, will he become playoff ready? I don't know who the hell the guy is they have at QB. To be honest, did they move off of Jordan Maivia? Who's USC starting at QB next year? I haven't even paid much attention over there because I know he is on the hot seat. Look, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again, but long story short, I think the game adjusted on Lincoln and he hasn't adjusted back offensively. Lincoln had the game in the chokehold for the last half of the 2010s. Offensively, schematically wise, he had the game in the chokehold. Marrying air raid with guard tackle counter and the mesh of that power run and that counter married with air raid at that time and getting those quarterbacks to play at that pace, he had the game in a chokehold. But once people adjusted to all that and people started adjusting to RPO and defensive coordinators, the stride that defensive coordinators have made since the beginning of COVID, we talked about this a few weeks ago, y'all. I mean, Michael Penix was the last one to go stupid wild with in terms of passing numbers. And that was him with 3 Infinity Stones at receiver. But people haven't been going crazy. Like, Caleb Williams won the Heisman, and they put up numbers at USC, but it wasn't even still hitting the same as it was like with Baker and Kyler and all that. Like that was when he just was ahead schematically. He was. And the adjustments have not happened. The thing with Sark that I like is, regardless of how you feel about Sark, the play caller, Sark as a head coach in his function of running a program, of being a CEO of a program, he has ascended. Because Sark hasn't always been lights out as a play caller here at Texas. Let's be honest. We were 111th in red zone. It doesn't matter because he's ascended all the way as a head coach. Lincoln Riley has struggled running a program, at least at USC. Now, it's got to win. He's in his own super conference. Yeah, Jordan Maivia is still going to be. I mean, he's got Longstreet and then Sam Hewart, who's transferred over. But it looks like, Jordan, who started and won their bowl game, that's what it's going to be. Texas always underachieves in recruiting. Mike called me a coon. Whoa. Happy Sunday to you too, Mike. I don't know what I did to you, brother, but to each your own. Wait, was Tom Herman right? Knock it off, Marlon. Knock it off. Both of them are, yeah. So this question about Arch it's funny because a lot of the people in the media that are talking sideways about Arch, if you go to their accounts on X and put the name Arch or Arch Manning and just look at their overall history before he committed to Texas and look at how they were talking about him, and then use that juxtaposed to how they talk about Arch post committing to Texas through present day. That's why I don't take a lot of the media seriously, because they were the ones that were gassing him when he was available for everybody. When people thought he was going to go to Georgia, go look at it. I pulled receipts on one particular journalist the other day because he was talking out the side of his neck, and it was one of the Georgia guys. He was talking out the side of his neck. And when you go look at his tweets about Arch before Texas, he was on both knees, mouth wide open, crazy. That was him. Okay. So a lot of these people are fans and former stands that were hurt because he didn't pick their favorite school, because he went to Texas. And so now people are acting like the Manning name isn't, like, as if bloodline does not matter, as if who you've been trained by doesn't matter, as if what your own eye has seen from whenever he has set foot on the football field. And I know it's not the greatest sample size. I know that. But he started football games. It's not like some of these other guys that have never even started a football game. He started a conference game. He started 2 games here at Texas. He's played. And even what you have seen on film, Arch threw a dime against Mississippi State, and you'll have people say, well, it's Mississippi State. What the hell does that have to do with the fucking throw? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be cussing like that. It's Sunday. Let me stop. What does that have to do with the throw? Right? Like, I don't care who the opponent is. If you're dropping the ball in the bucket from a certain platform or a certain angle, we didn't do that with Patrick Mahomes when he was at Texas Tech and he was going 5-7, but throwing the ball all over the place. He was still a first round pick because it didn't matter who he was playing against. I don't remember who was on the field whenever they were showing his highlights because you were paying attention to the performance of the throws. So this narrative shift that has happened, like there's a big part of me that hopes Arch just goes scorched earth. And even then, they'll move. Some of them will come around, but some of them will move the goalposts until he gets to the NFL. I mean, this is the closest I've seen to Andrew Luck in terms of all of the tools and everything you would want molded into a quarterback. And they act like some of the things that people try to make up. Well, I haven't seen. Like you're telling me you don't trust it. You don't see it with Arch, or you don't trust it with Arch because you haven't seen it at all. Okay, cool. But then you're gassing up Julian Sand. You're gassing up other guys who have shown less or nothing. That's what's funny to me. But yeah, just go these people, go back and look at what they were saying about Arch if they haven't scrubbed their accounts before he committed to Texas. Even when he was playing games, y'all remember when he was playing games on ESPN at Isidore Newman? Y'all remember when they were playing? Go look at what some of those people were tweeting then. They weren't talking about level of competition. I mean, yeah, we would all make jokes about some of the kids that were on the field, 100%. Now it's switched to, well, it's Mississippi State, blah blah blah. Come on, man. We people have been drafting quarterback. We drafted quarterbacks from all over the moon, all over this earth. It's hilarious to me. And I really don't just. I wasn't even trying to get upset or anything, but it's just crazy. It's just crazy. You have people that cover the same people that y'all will look at, the same guys like, and when I say people, I'm talking about NFL scouts, people that we respect, right? Across the industry will break down tape of your favorite school or program. Let's say a Georgia linebacker. They'll show you tape. They'll say, yo, this is what I'm seeing. This is what, and y'all will retweet that. But Todd McShay and these same people break down early Arch film, which is normal. They always get ahead. People were breaking down Quinn's Bama film after week 2 his freshman year. Stop it. Like, this is what they do. They are early in the game. They were breaking down Kelvin Banks' film freshman year. The people are breaking down Arch film, Mississippi State, and they're like, wow, there's a bunch of NFL shit we're seeing all over this tape. And crazy. It was crazy. And I was like, this is a normal function of what we do. Y'all are just mad because of the player and because where that player decided to play football. And it's become a perfect storm of hate. of hate. And you can't even, I can't even have ration. If I can't talk ball off of a guy making a particular throw or making a wild play, and you can't get off the Mississippi State thing, then I can't move forward in the conversation with you. We just can't get there, brother. We can't talk ball. We can't. I don't respect where you're coming from because you're clearly jaded. Right. Right. Odell played it. Like, thank you. All these people. It's interesting. Look, I'm not saying Arch I've said this before, right? So let's balance this out too. Also said, somebody was like, "Oh, is he gonna?" I've tempered expectations in terms of yes, he's gonna have to grow and scale and all that. I think there's gonna be games early in the season we probably have to win with the defense. When I say early in the season, I'm talking about Ohio State because after that is G5. But the moment it starts clicking and the consistency's there, and he's really, really used to the speed of ball, come on, man, come on. Y'all take John too seriously. Y'all take John way too seriously. John has Elko at 2. John has Elko at 2. John. This is why people troll A&M if you do stuff like this. I think it's funny. I think because I don't take you because I know you don't believe this. I know your own self. You don't believe this. You don't. You don't. There's no justification for this. There's no data point. There's no empirical data that you can present right now, John, to justify this. There's no empirical data you can present to us that can justify this. Absolutely not. But you're funny. And that's why I like you here on the channel. And that's why I hope you show up for every video. I love you here. I told you. Maybe I believe it. Maybe I do. I told y'all don't take him seriously. Don't take John too seriously. Please. Please. I have fun with John coming here and run his mouth. I agree with this, Josh. I agree with you. The energy would definitely be different if he was at Georgia, or if he had went. Let's say he went to play for. Now, if he had gone to play for Ole Miss or something like that, then he would be so beloved because he didn't even go to a super school, right? Like, but and here's the reality: if Arch had picked Georgia, there would be some, not all, but there would be some Texas fans talking out the side of their neck saying he's not all he's going to believe him. It's the function that's a natural thing. That's a natural thing. I don't like that's part of college football. My thing though is when I start to hear paid media members, people that are supposed to cover this sport, and they're purposely playing with the Arch narrative, look like just to look dumb later on, which is I don't get it. I don't get being disingenuous, but that's me. The fan stuff is the fan stuff, but the media stuff, like, I'm so sorry, Peter. Please tell them I dropped the ball. That is on me, sir. That was I apologize. I know I should be better. I will be better, sir. I apologize. Please send please share this with the whole family. I'm sorry. Okay? Because that was an emotional reaction. That was not my best work, especially on a Sunday. people are home with their families watching this, getting meals prepped for the week, trying to relax, and I just came out here just with a. So I apologize. Facts. Facts. We were coming off of we were in the middle of going 8-5. We were in the middle of going 8-5 in year two after 5-7. It was around that time he committed. We were not a playoff team. We were in the middle of the Big 12 messing around again. That's where we were. We had some promise coming in. The recruiting was picking up. The buzz was picking up, but we weren't our this Arch 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 joining the bandwagon would have been going to Georgia at that time. He actually if you think about it, he picked a harder path. At the time he was in high school, based upon where the two teams were, Georgia was in the process of obliterating and blowing TCU off the face of this earth like no man had ever been blown off this earth before. That was what was happening. We were we were off the radar, bro. We were off the radar. But what Sark's resume as a developer, what they saw in terms of ingredients for how the program was building, yeah, they saw it early that stuff was going to matter. And they were right because those ingredients turned into back to back playoff runs. So the stuff that they were evaluating, which is why the Manning family is brilliant, the things that they were picking for and evaluating in terms of program growth and what the coach had done and developed with other guys in the past, on top of being the the combined brainchild of Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, as Nick Saban is leaving this game. Yeah, they bet on that. That's what they bet on. Georgia, they could have picked Georgia. Nobody would have blamed them. Nobody would have. Why not? Why not jump on that bandwagon? Would have been safe. Unless you considered how the other 5-star quarterbacks have been since they committed to Georgia. But we don't want to have that conversation. Hmm? And I'm talking about in the Kirby Smart era. Don't go back to bring up Matthew Stafford. I'm talking about in this current iteration of Georgia. All them 5-stars that have gone over there, and they're still getting their share. But how many of them have ended up, you know, I mean, it was Stetson that did it all, and he was the opposite of a 5-star. And the streets are saying Stetson didn't even graduate, allegedly. But it happens, Cook. It happens. People will get on here and fix their face and actually argue with this family that has been in the trenches of football. Like, and when I say the trenches, I'm talking about behind the scenes, in the know. Man, cue up the H post, man. Cue up the Vince McMahon. He was special. That Vince McMahon gift for that first quarter versus Bama, where he's like, "Ooh-wee." QB school baked that thing back up during the NFL draft just to just to show what could have been in terms of the what could have been. Yeah, like we people always hold our feet to the fire about people that came here and all those things. But the Georgia QB stuff, Brock Vandegrift, Justin Fields, JT Daniels, even though he transferred from USC, he was a 5-star. Georgia's they've gotten quarterbacks under Kirby Smart. Now Carson Beck was a 4-star. He was also pretty heavily regarded, and he ended up getting to play. But when you think about some of the people that have been in the Georgia quarterback room over the years, going back to Jacob Eason was a 5-star. Fromm was a 4. A lot of those guys did not develop in there or ended up finding success at another program. It's not like Georgia has just been spinning out quarterbacks that they've developed. They've been winning. They've been winning national championships, and they've been a great program. And Kirby Smart undoubtedly should be ranked the number 1 head coach in college football. If you're ranking anybody else, you're wrong. At least right now. Right now, absolutely is Kirby Smart. But in terms of what they are doing in the quarterback room, especially post Todd Monken, you want to go coach? You want to go spin the ball for Mike Bobo or Sark? I'm going Sark over Bobo. I don't care if they beat us twice last year. I'm still going Sark over Bobo. Yeah, this is something we'll pay attention to as we continue our rewatch series. By the way, I am going to have to pick up steam on the rewatches because if I do it only every Friday, where obviously there's not enough Fridays left before the season to get through 16 games, and we've gotten through 1 game so far, which is Colorado State. So we're going to have to pick up the ante on the rewatch series, which hopefully you guys, I know we had a couple bugs at the beginning, but it was kind of fun. I don't think I've ever done that on this channel before, going through a whole game and rewatching every snap. But we did that for the Colorado State game. Go check that out if you missed it. We will do it for all the games. I'm just going to have to pick it up. So there's going to be some random days where you see us streaming. We're just going to be rewatching a game. Knock it out. As for this week, I probably will do the Michigan game on Friday. Yeah, we're going to have to do 2 a week. So some of the Sunday services may be a rewatch. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but it is what it is. I got to crank this out before the season starts. Michigan will probably be Friday, and then we'll do UTSA probably Sunday. That path. But to the point about Quinn, the Michigan game is the game where allegedly the oblique injury and whatnot actually occurred. And so, we did kind of pay a little bit of attention to how he was moving in the first game and, just kind of seeing what that will look like. Obviously we'll go heavy into Arch when Arch took over versus UTSA through Mississippi State, right? Again, what type of play calls, movement, just taking those together. I've noticed that so many Texas fans, so many of us rewatch the games right before the season starts, just to get ready to get. It's like your favorite show's about to come back, and you rewatch the last season, or you at least recap all the episodes before your the next season of your favorite show is about to hit. And I notice a lot of Texas fans do that. We've always talked about it, but now we're going to do it together. So that's what the whole rewatch series is about. We're not over there 3 hours doing a whole film session or anything like that. We're just rewatching the games, taking notes, and taking away what we can from it. So we're using Nash's every play that he puts up on his Texas Clips channel, and yeah, we gonna watch all 16 from last year before the season starts. So thank you, Cook and Co. Right on time. Everybody hit that like button. Really appreciate it. I am getting ready to head over to get some dinner with my wife and wrap up this evening. I am traveling this week for work, so that's the other thing. So July 4th is this week, so I'm not going to do a video on July 4th. So we'll probably do the Michigan game Thursday. So we'll probably do the Michigan game Thursday, July 3rd, and then since I travel for work on tomorrow, we'll probably do our guests on Wednesday. So probably back to back nights. We'll have interview with the guest this week, and I'll have the guest lined up. Somebody that y'all are also familiar with from another fan base, and then we'll do Michigan Thursday, and then we'll do UTSA on Sunday. So that's what the week's going to look like here on this channel. As well as, I'm cooking up some Cowboys content in the back as we also get ready for the NFL season coming up. Hit the like button. I appreciate y'all so very much. Everybody that comes through here, all the donations, even people like John, even people like Mike saying that I'm all that. It's all love. I appreciate all the interaction. And remember, horns always up. Hook 'em.